Now we will look into criteria 3. Criteria 3 is about research, innovations and extension. It's one of the very important criteria. This criteria decides the grade of the organization. All other criteria will support the grades. But criteria 3 will decide whether the organization can become a grade A graded college or not. And therefore, criteria 3 plays a very important role. Let's look into this criteria in greater details. This criteria has 7 parameters, or we can well say as 7 key indicators. 3.1 is research promotion, then mobilization of resources for research, innovation ecosystem that you are able to see is the third one, research publications and awards is the fourth one, consultancy is the fifth one, and then you are able to see 3.7 actually, which is collaborations. So let's look into each one into greater details. We will talk about research promotion. When we are talking about research promotion, it is primarily about research policy, seed money for research, fellowships for teachers to undergo research, and central facility for research. How does the organization promote research? This is the main aspect that you are able to see over here. Now, when we are looking into 3.1 in greater details, 3.1.1 makes a mention of research promotion policies. So what is the policy for promotion of research? There needs to be a written policy. It has to be a well-defined written policy for promotion of the research. That should be put up on the institutional website. Then you are able to see for which, when did this policy, was this policy made, how is it implemented, and all these details come in minutes of governing council or board of management or academic council, wherever it has been presented, accordingly it would come in. But then having a policy, having a written policy is an important aspect that is expected over here. Now what more things are needed? Quality policy is needed. An organization must have a policy statement, must have a quality policy, which must make a mention of all the aspects of quality, where research automatically becomes one of the aspects. Then we are also talking about the research policy, aims of the research policy, objectives of the research policy, how are you going to promote research, so promotion methodology, implementation methodology of research policies, funding of the policy, funding policy and anti-plagiarism policy. All these need to come under research. Then you are able to see 3.1.2. It talks about the seed money that the organization is providing for the research. Institution provides seed money to its teachers for research. Average per year in lakhs. How much of money is spent by the organization on the research? In other words, whether the organization funds research or not. Keep in mind, good organizations have a good research policy. Good organizations spend money on research. When they spend money on research, research is a long-term investment done by the institution. It benefits the institution. After spending so long, even if one patent is created and it is sold, it will give huge money to the organization. And therefore, this is just an example that I am saying. And therefore, research is in the long term of the organization. So when we are talking about the seed money, how much money is paid in lakhs, then name of the teacher who has been given seed money, amount of seed money, year of receiving the grant, duration of the amount, all these need to be given over there. Then we come to 3.1.3, number of teachers awarded international fellowships for advanced studies or research during the last 5 years. So we are talking about teachers who have received grants, and for studies, and they are for advanced fellowships that you are able to see. So then in that case there are many such kind of fellowships that are available. Commonwealth Fellowship is one of the fellowships available. Fulbright Fellowships for teaching and excellence. Hubert Humphrey Fellowship programs. Circle Fellowship for teaching and learning. Certain university specific fellowships are also available. So which fellowship policy is it? What does it give the teachers? That needs to be mentioned out over here. Then we come to 3.1.4. It talks about central facilities. It talks about central instrumentation center, animal house whether it is present, central fabrication facility to create instruments, media laboratory or business laboratories or studios that are present, research or statistical basis, databases options whether they are available. Any of these four, that would give you all the marks. There are 7 marks to it, it's a huge number. Or how many are present, that will decide how much is to be provided, how many marks you earn. All the details of it need to be given. Now we come to the next aspect called as the resource mobilization for research. We are with 3.2. 3.2.1 talks about research grants and research projects. Grants for research projects sponsored by government and non-government agencies. This is point number 1. Second, recognized research center, whether the center has been recognized. Third, percentage of teachers recognized as research guides. Fourth, number of research projects per teacher. Now let us look into each one of it. 3.2.1, it talks about grants for research projects sponsored by the government and non-government sources such as industry, corporate houses, international bodies, endowments, chairs in the institution during the last 5 years. Here the total amount of money is expected, from where it has come is expected, to whom it has come is expected, and for what purpose it has come is expected. It needs to be given in the chart that is provided to them. Second is 3.2.2, which is about research center. How many research centers does the organization have? So there could be a research center for science, there can be a research center for computer science, there can be a research center for commerce, there can be a research center for arts, there can be research for performing arts. So all these research centers, how many research centers are present in the organization? Then number of research centers recognized by the institution and by the national bodies. We are also talking about their recognition. So 3.2.2.1 is about number of research centers recognized by institution and national or international bodies. So it must be listed out, that is what is expected over here. We come to 3.2.3, percentage of teachers recognized as research guides. How many research guides are present in that particular organization? That is what is being asked. For example, Ruia College has 30 research guides and they have had something like 300 PhD projects, PhDs done over there. Now this gives us a complete big span of the kind of research that has been done by the organization. So number of teachers who are recognized as guides, full-time teachers working in the institution for the past 5 years and who are research guides needs to be mentioned out over here. We come to 3.2.4. It talks about research projects. Number of research projects per teacher funded by the government and non-government agencies during the last 5 years. So this is one more aspect that I wish to add over here. So these make up 3.2.1 and 3.2.2. Let's go to 3.3, innovation ecosystem in criteria 3. Innovation ecosystem is about innovations including an incubation center. Innovation ecosystem in all carries, that is 3.3, carries a huge weightage 20. These questions are expected for the postgraduate colleges. These are not needed for the undergraduate colleges. 3.3.1, it talks about ecosystem for innovations including incubation center. Now what is expected over here? What kind of innovation center is present over here? How many innovation centers are present? Then you are able to see whether incubation center is present. You have to give all the evidences, and this is to be written down in 300 words, 500 words. So you have to describe the ecosystem. It means that this question is going to be checked by the peer team. That is what it means. Then you are able to 3.3.2. It talks about number of workshops, seminars conducted on intellectual property rights and industry academia innovative practices during last 5 years. In research, how is your research? A more functional one is what is expected over here. That would mean that whether our research is supporting the industry or is going to be useful to the common man is what is expected over here. And therefore, if we want that to happen, we need to know the patent laws. Our students need to be made aware about IPR, patenting, and therefore how many workshops have been conducted on intellectual property rights. Now that plays a very important role. Now it will include the copywriting, it will include the trademarks, it will include the patents, it will include the registered patents that you are able to see. So registered marks that you are able to see. So all these are expected over here. The student must know it. And how many students? Keep in mind, NAC expects a very big number of students to know it. So if you have 1,000 students in your organization, at least 700 students know it. Second part is that how well are you associated with the industry and how the industrial association is to be seen. So what kind of activities are you conducting along with the industry? It could be visit to the industries, it could be bringing the resource persons from the industry to the organization, it could be having some kind of fusion syllabi with the industry, it could be some kind of training that is provided to the student in the industry. All these aspects will be coming under this particular aspect. So how good is the industry academia interaction is what is expected in this particular question. Now we come to 3.3.3. It talks about innovation awards. Number of awards for innovation won by an institution or by a teacher or by a research scholar or by students during the last 5 years. So anything related to innovation is expected over here. Any award related to innovation is expected over here. It could be an award to the individual or it could be an award to the institution. What innovative practices have you brought in is what is expected. We find new mobiles coming up every 6 months and we keep on finding new innovative ideas coming out through it. We are able to see even those small innovations, if they are done by the organization and they are recorded by the organization, then in that case it is going to help us. How useful are we going to be to the community? Any extra effort that comes in, that is going to make the organization and the industry a working place, a wonderful place, is what is expected over here. And therefore, how many innovative awards has the organization won is what is asked out. If we come to 3.3.4, this talks about incubation centers and startups. Number of startups incubated on the campus during the last 5 years. So nature of the startup is expected over here. Year of commencement is expected over here. Contact information of the promoters. When you are going for a startup, naturally it is not you who's going to go for a startup. So there has to be somebody who's going to promote a startup. There is somebody who's going to create that startup. So how has this organization become an incubator for developing out of new ideas is expected out over here. Now when we come to the next part, that is 3.4. 3.4 talks about research publications and awards. 3.4 is a big key indicator. It includes institution has a stated code of ethics 3.1. It talks about incentives given to the teachers 3.4.2. It talks about number of patents by the teachers and by the organization. 3.4.4 talks about number of PhD awarded per teacher in the last 5 years. 3.4.5 talks about number of research papers per teacher in the research journal. 3.4.6 talks about number of books and chapters in edited volumes. 3.4.7 talks about bibliometrics in the publication. 3.4.8 talks about bibliometrics of publication during the last 5 years based on Scopus or Web of Science. So it has the key indicators has a very large number of metrics, and therefore this becomes a very heavy question with 20 marks. 3.4.1 talks about code of ethics, whether the organization has a code of ethics. If it has a code of ethics, it is to be prepared, it is to be put up on the website. It should be available to everybody. Then you are able to see organizational incentives to teachers. How the teachers who receive state, national, international recognition or awards, how does the organization felicitate them? Whether it felicitates them, whether it gives them something in kind is what is expected over here. All the necessary proofs need to be furnished out. Then we have patents awarded for 3.4.3. The number of patents published awarded during the last 5 years. Here, name of the patent published or awarded, patent number, year of the award, and then all these details are needed over here in 3.4.3. We come to 3.4.4. How many PhDs have been awarded? So, if this organization has PhDs, how many of them are awarded in the last 5 years? All the details are expected over here. Then we come to research paper writing as an aspect. 3.4.5. It talks about number of research papers per teacher in the journals notified on the UGC website during the last 5 years. So how many research papers have been published and per teacher how many research papers have come up is what is asked out. Then we are able to see 3.4.6. It talks about the books and the chapters that the teachers have written down. So it could be research papers, or then whether any kind of chapters have been written down in the books, in the volumes, in the edited volumes, or in the books that are published, and papers in the national and international journals that are going to be made a mention of here. Per teacher needs to be made a mention of in this particular criteria. Then we come to 3.4.7. It is about publication bibliometrics. Bibliometrics of publication during the last 5 years based on the average citation index of Scopus, Web of Science, or PubMed, or Indian Citation Index needs to be mentioned out over here. So these criteria are going to make an impact on the organization. And lastly, let us look into what is the H index. Whether the H index is created, has been calculated by the organization, which can come in by H index of the Scopus plus H index of the Web of Science divided by 2 gives us the H index in a true sense. In this way, you are able to see 3.4 has a very large number of parameters, especially if this organization is a PG center, it is going to make a big difference to this particular organization. We start with 3.5, consultancy. Whether the organization offers a consultancy. 3.5.1, 3.5.2 and 3.5.3 are the three metrics under 3.5 consultancy. 3.5.1 talks about institution has a policy on consultancy including revenue sharing between the institution and the individual. 3.5.2 talks about revenue generated from the consultancy during the last 5 years. And 3.5.3 talks about revenue generated from the corporate training by the institution during the last 5 years. NAC expects organizations to develop in such a way that they go in association with the industry. Not only that, the individual who has worked with the industry and who gets some advantage in the terms of monetary advantages, how is it going to be shared with the organization is what is expected in this case. So when we talk about a revenue sharing policy, that policy must come on paper. So institution has a policy on consultancy including revenue sharing between the institution and the individual, that is the teacher. So how does it share? Whether it is 60-40, whether it is 70-30, whether it is 90-10, whatever is the mechanism, it must come on paper, it must be seen on the paper. The amount has come to the organization has shared the amount with the researcher, the researcher is benefited, and so is the organization. That is what should be seen over here. Then we come to 3.5.2. This talks about revenue generation. Now the revenue generated from consultancy, how much money has come in lakhs is what is expected. From which consultancy, how much money has come, in which year it has come, with whom has it come, are the details that are expected over here. We come to 3.5.3. It is about corporate training. Revenue generated from corporate training by the institution during the last 5 years. What is NAC trying to tell us? They are trying to tell us that the organization is not just to teach. It is also to create resources. Research is one of the finest way to create a resource. Corporate trainings are trainings whereby the industry will be providing a benefit to the organization. So the organization is going to train the industry. It could be at the earliest level, it could be at the managerial level, it could be at any level, in a variety of ways. For example, there are organizations who are excellent in soft skills. They provide soft skill training to the industries so that the industrial labor gets trained accordingly and it helps the organization to be better. So how much revenue is generated in lakhs is to be mentioned out over here. Now we come to 3.6, that is extension activities. These extension activities really play a very important role. Now when we are talking about 3.6, that is extension activities, now what are those questions? Let's look into it. 3.6.1, it talks about extension activities in the neighborhood community in terms of impact and sensitizing the students to social issues and holistic development during the last 5 years. 3.6.2 talks about number of awards and recognitions received for extension activities from the government or recognized bodies. 3.6.3 talks about a number of extension and outreach activity programs conducted in collaboration with the industry, community and non-governmental agencies by NSS, NCC, Red Cross, etc. Then you are able to see 3.6.4, which talks about average percentage of students participating in these activities. Let us look into it each one by one. 3.6.1 talks about the extension activities in the neighborhood community in terms of impact and sensitizing the student. Now what is expected over here is, it's not only conducting an activity for the society, how has it impacted the students? That would mean that we will need a feedback system. For every activity that we conduct, a feedback needs to be taken. It needs to be taken from the individual, it needs to be taken from the society. It needs to be analyzed and reports should be prepared. This is one part. Then we come to 3.6.2. In conducting these events, for working for the community, how many awards did the organization get? What type of award did it get? The NSS हो सकता है, it could be NSS, it could be NCC, it could be many more such kind of awards where they have been given awards for the good work that has been done. A record of it is expected over here. When we talk of 3.6.3, it is talking about NSS activities, it is talking about YRC activities, it is talking about NCC activities, number of activities conducted, number of programs conducted. Many a times there is a question and there is a mention, extension and outreach activities. To see, primarily both activities appear to be extension activities only. In an extension activity, the student is benefited, the student learns. In an outreach activity, the community benefits. For example, in COVID-19, the funds that have been collected by people are given to the COVID patients or are given for the health, or are given to the organization so that they are treated. Now here the student has earned less, it's an outreach activity. When there are floods, we collect money, we send it to the flood victims. This is an outreach activity. When we collect clothes, old clothes, and we share it, it's an outreach activity. But when a student goes and works in the community for building up of the roads, for construction of the houses, for construction of bunds, for construction of small dams, the student is getting the benefit, though society is also getting benefit. That is an extension activity. So there is a difference between an extension and an outreach activity. This is what I was just wanted to make a mention of. Then let's go to the next aspect, that is 3.6.4, participation in extension activities. How many students have participated in extension activities? The total number of students is the denominator, and the activities conducted is the numerator. For example, if 100 students have gone for Swachhata Bharat Abhiyan, then in that case you are able to see 100 divided by 3000. If there are 3000 students, that would make it a very negligible amount. So therefore, negligible number I mean to say. Therefore, it would not be 100. It would be out of 3000, at least 2000 students have participated in Swachhata Bharat Abhiyan. Then and then you get a good score. And therefore, denominator counts out. And therefore, for all these activities, how many more students have participated, how many times have they participated, and the activity has been conducted, really counts out. For that activity, the student is counted only once. Now, we go to the next part. MOUs, collaborations and linkages. We are able to see that there are three indicators over here that we find out. The number of collaborative activities for research, faculty exchange, student exchange here. Number of linkages with institutions is the second part. And number 3 happens to be 3.7.3, that is number of functional MOUs that an organization happens to have. Now let us go look into 3.7.1. Number of collaborative activities for research, faculty exchange, student exchange per year. Here you are able to see how many activities have been conducted for research, how many activities have been done with respect to faculty exchange and student exchange. The college could be, there could be a neighboring college with whom you can go for faculty and student exchange. This can be an activity without expenditure of money. It can just work on with a duty leave also, whereby the organization has given a duty leave. The teacher goes and works in that organization. That organization gives a report that the teacher has worked with us. So many teachers have come and worked with us. Then it is with student exchanges, and these activities really make a big impact on the culture of the organization. So here you are able to see 3.7.1 talks about collaborative activities for research faculty. 3.7.2 linkages with the industry. Number of linkages with the institutions, industries for internships, on-job training, project work, sharing of research facilities during last 5 years. See the fun. In criteria 1, we have talked about the internship program. In criteria 2, under experiential learning, again internship program comes. In criteria 3, in 3.7.2, you are again able to see internship program. It means that this particular aspect has heavy weightage, and therefore we need to see to it that our students get internships. They work with the organizations, they are benefited. Internships mean a guarantee to work in the institutions because it's a first-hand experience that you are able to see. Then we come to 3.7.3, that is functional MOUs with institutions of national, international importance, other institutions, industries, corporate houses during the last 5 years. Only functional MOUs are to be made a mention of. That is, MOU that has worked that year is a functional MOU. If it does not work that year, it's not a functional MOU. So every year, these MOUs should be functional. If a MOU is made for 3 years, then it must remain functional for 3 years. That would mean that if it is in association with an industry, the students must go to the industry, or people from industry must come to the organization. They should have some kind of lectures, activities going on, then and then it remains a functional MOU. The objective of having a functional MOU with the industry happens to be that the students benefit. They get the first-hand experience of the industry, and therefore such kind of MOUs are promoted. NAC promotes such kind of MOUs so that the organization benefits, the student benefits. Finally, for us, it is the student who needs to get placed. It is the student who needs to go into a progression. We will be looking into it in criteria 5. So you are able to see student progression, which is related to its studies, will depend on such kind of MOUs whereby he gets experiences. Student placement will also be based on this particular aspect, and therefore these aspects really make a big sense. This is where we have completed criteria 3. Criteria 3 is an important criteria. If an organization wants to get a good grade, its criteria 3 is going to make a big impact.